Hello, everyone. This is Rocky Erickson with Montana's Sports. It's Wednesday. It's time for the Frontier Conference Update. This week's sponsor, Pepsi, Harrington Bottling Company. This week, a look back at a former Frontier Conference athlete and what are they doing today. In 2016, the Billings Senior Broncs had a very talented football team, led by quarterback Nate Dick and all-world wide receiver Gabe Sulser. That season, Senior won a perfect 13-0, won their first state title in 37 years. Nate Dick filled up the stat sheet 9 years ago. He passed for over 2,600 yards, 34 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. He also rushed for over 1,200 yards and 19 scores, 3,861 yards of total offense and 53 touchdowns. No wonder Nate Dick was the 2016 Montana Gatorade Football Player of the Year. And what does Nate Dick remember most about that 2016 State AA football title?
The best part about it was that we lost it the year before in Bozeman. They got us twice that year, and then we played them during the regular season, beat them in Billings, and then just going on a little run. But in terms like with Gabe, it's like I grew up, he was a Poly kid. I lived more in like Central Billings. I grew up playing sports against him. But I think it was his class and my class that really kind of bought into Coach Murdoch's culture and his vision of that program. There was a good core, probably like 20 to 25 dudes that between juniors and seniors my senior year that just were ball players. It wasn't just Nathan Dick and Gabe Sulser. There was some other dudes on that team for sure.
Nate Dick started his college football in Missoula with the Grizzlies, then transferred to Rocky Mountain College. In my 40 years of covering sports, I don't believe I've ever seen an athlete overcome so many injuries.
So my redshirt freshman year, so in 2018, when Coach Petrino was there, Jacob Bakken was the quarterback, and I was kind of like a gadget guy, wildcat guy. I broke my left foot, third game of the year against Dickinson. The next year, broke my right foot, the second game against Northern. Tried to play the next week against Carroll, just couldn't go. And then COVID hit the next year, and then we had our spring season. We opened up with Carroll at home, first quarter, tore my Achilles. And then the next year, that was the only year I finished the season. And then I came back for another year, and then I tore my ACL the third game in Butte.
Any way you look at it, that is really hard to believe. When I announced the state Class A basketball tournament a few weeks ago, one of the officials was Nate Dick, working his very first state tournament.
So actually how I got involved, I was at lunch with Shane Larson, who is the head football coach out at Lockwood. He was a linebacker at Rocky, and him and I are pretty good friends. And I was just talking about trying to find a part-time job during winter conditioning, and he's like, I officiate basketball, and he goes, you should try that. And I remember I just laughed at him. I'm like, dude, there's no way, I'd never do that. Like, those guys get heckled. Like, I couldn't handle it. Like, I wouldn't be able to do it. He's like, I'll just give it a try. So I called Jay Lemlin and Mike Whitmire, and I like, hey, I'm interested in, officiating. And, my first probably 2 or 3 years, I didn't really take it too serious. I did a lot of middle school games, some high school games, and it wasn't until really, Mike Whitmire and Rob Tesh kind of put their arm around me and were like, hey, like, you're pretty good at this. Like, if they're like, you need to start taking this serious and, start getting some varsity games. So by like my third and fourth year, I was doing a handful of varsity games and then became a master official, and then went to a couple of Rob Tesh's camps that he puts on in the summer. And that's how I got hired on to the men's frontier circuit. And then I went to Seattle last May to get hired onto the men's GNAC circuit. So
from a quarterback in the Frontier Conference to a basketball official in the conference. I just hope Nate Dick doesn't tee up any sportscasters in the near future.